welcome back. It's been a while. I took a little break and I'm gonna bring you a really cool video to make up for that. We're currently in New Hampshire. We came out here to visit some family, went to the Boston Marathon where I saw my brother-in-law complete the Boston Marathon, so a huge congratulations to you, Santos. And now we're gonna be heading over to Maine to meet up with a guy on Instagram. His name is Justin and he goes by BMX Basement. If you're not following him, you're really missing out on some really rad BMX content. So the goal of this video is to show you Justin's collection of really awesome bikes and BMX related things. And I want you to follow him on Instagram because we really want to try to blow up his account. So if you're a loyal follower or subscriber, please go do that. Okay, let's get on the road. Get over to Maine, which is about an hour and a half from where I'm at, and then we're gonna show you Justin's really awesome BMX collection. Okay, so we finally made it. We're here at Justin's house in the basement, the BMX basement that I told you about earlier. Took me a little bit to get here, but we've been here for quite a while now, just hanging out, talking about BMX, and I wanted to introduce you to Justin at BMX Basement. Justin, welcome to the channel.
Thanks, man.
So what we're going to ask you to do is just give us a little tour of your shop and what you do and why you do it. I've looked around, you got a lot of really rad bikes, and I figure this video will be more about just showing off what you have, telling everybody why you do what you do and how you started doing this, which is cool because the more people I meet and the more we do this, everyone's kind of got that same story, no matter where you grew up. You grew up in Maine, I grew up in California, two polar opposite sides of the US, and it's the same story over and over again. I think that's the raddest part of this. It's not like this extreme difference, right?
Right, yeah.
So how long have you been doing BMX Basement?
4 years ago. I started collecting and building. It started with my original bike, which I still have, which is really awesome, but I just started collecting frame sets and putting bikes together that I wanted as a kid. You know, it was, magazine, just bikes that I had to have or wanted to have and didn't.
So you started off with your childhood bike then, so the CW Flyer, right?
So this is the 87 CW Flyer. This was a bike I bought brand new in 1987. I rode the wheels off of this bike, literally. And it ended up in my parents' barn for, 25, 30 years of sitting and not being ridden. And I hauled it out and started restoring it, and most of it's original.
So that's one thing that's real different is most people do this to relive their childhood but not have their childhood bike. Like me, mine was a PK Ripper, and I don't have my childhood bike. I sold it. So I had to just go find another one, and that kind of kicked off that passion for building bikes again, whereas you actually have your childhood bike. And I think that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to still have it. I thank my parents for that. You know, it sat around. It could have been thrown many times, and I know a lot of people I talk to, wish they still had their bike, or talk about, hey, my childhood bike was stolen, or they got rid of it, traded it for car parts.
Right.
As they got older. So. This, like I said, I'm really fortunate to still have it. It's my favorite bike. It's never for sale. It's not going anywhere. I will, this sort of...
Yeah, don't blow up Justin on Instagram asking him if all these bikes are for sale. But I want to go down the row because you got a pretty outstanding collection.
Thank you.
A lot of them are assembled. A lot of them are waiting to be assembled. So it's kind of like the whole gauntlet of the evolution of building a bike to a finished bike. So let's start right here. This is gorgeous. This is tell us what this is.
So this one is a 1987. It's a General. It's a Hustler Fred Blood edition. It's original paint, original decals, original wheels. I changed the necessary parts. Like that's what I kind of try to do. Is I try to retain as much of the original bike as I can. So like those pedals are original. I took them all apart, all the little tiny ball bearings. I took everything apart and I bleached those They were bright yellow.
Yeah.
So
that's hard to do with plastic, to really get it to come back and look as bright as things you had to replace. Like, obviously you're going to have to replace tires, grips, seat, the things that just took a lot of hard wear and tear over 30 years. And then when you mix it with, you know, an original piece, you can see the contrast, which is very hard to do, but you did a great job.
Thank you.
Sometimes those pedals are just a loss, you know, you're just not going to bring them back, or you're going to have yellow pedals.
Yeah, and it's, you know, the taking the spindles out of them and rebuilding the ball bearings, they're so tiny, man. It's such a tricky thing to do. But the nice thing about the cool thing, I guess, about this one is really the fact that it still has the original bike shop sticker on it.
Yeah, definitely.
And
where is it from? It's from Maine, even.
It came from. It's South.
So it's a local
Maine.
bike.
Correct. And it's going to the owner of this bike is actually in South Portland, Maine, which is where that bike shop used to be.
Crazy.
So that's pretty cool. And I actually had a follower on Instagram reach out to me and say, "Hey, tell me more about this bike." You know, and there was a pause, and he said more specifically, like, who owned this? And he said, I worked at that bike shop in 1987, and I probably assembled that bike. So that was really cool.
All right, so what's the next bike? You have a much newer one, but it looks really cool. What is that?
So this one is a 1987 GTPerformer, sorry, 98 GTPerformer. This bike was purchased new back in 98, and it was actually for my youngest brother. This bike was also ridden and used and abused and ended up in my parents' barn. And it was rusty, crusty, missing parts, no rear brake, the original mags were gone, but the guts of it were still original. So bars, the frame set, sprocket, the seat is still original. So I added Skyway mags, I added a rear brake, sort of a reissue on that. You know, it's got the piston stem, which cleaned up nicely, but
yeah, definitely.
It had an acid. We did an acid dip on it and got rid of most of the rust. So
restoration build. Are these the original grips, or did you buy these and put them on?
These we got. These were purchased after the fact.
Yeah,
they're original.
These are still out there. You can still find them on eBay. I have quite a few of these that I've bought over the years, and they're a nice touch. I'm glad they're still out there. It's one of my favorite grips.
Yeah, it is really cool. And then obviously they didn't come with these, but I thought that it was fitting for this bike. And the fact that this was also another bike that was in my family from new to kind of have both of them is kind of wild. You know, it's we talk to guys like you and I that are building bikes, collecting bikes. It's unusual to still have, you know, your original bikes.
Absolutely.
From your childhood.
And we just talked about that. This is your childhood bike.
Yep.
And so it's essentially been with you forever, or at your parents', which is really crazy.
It has, yeah. And one of the hardest things to find if you're a CW guy is those rear thread-in pegs that have the bosses in the rear dropouts. Those are the original ones. I don't know how we saved them.
I've never seen those, actually. You always see the frame with that big hole and never a peg.
Yeah, finding them is very difficult if you lose them. So thankfully I have the original, like the front ones are original to the bike too.
I've never even seen a repop of that rear one. I've seen a lot of repops of like these that screw in. I even have, I think I sent you a set.
Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
And because I never had a bike that needed those. I knew you had bikes that used those, but I'd never seen the rear ones. Now, what is this crusty gem right here?
So this is a 1987 Dyno Detour. It's in lavender, which is very desirable color. This is all, I would say, 98% original. Someone obviously changed out the levers. But the story behind that seat is this was in a warehouse in Texas, and it was leaning against a beam that got so hot that it actually melted into the seat.
That's wild.
So, this is another survivor, and this guy named Paul.
Is this 100% original?
50%.
But everything is just, I mean, it's even got the bike shop sticker. It's got everything. This bike is legit. I love this. One of the most, like you said, desired colors. Very cool bike. You gonna restore it one day, or just leave it crusty and correct?
I'm gonna clean it up. I'm going
make it
to
rideable.
Yeah, The guy I bought it from really was adamant about it staying together and not being parted out, which I never do. So
yeah, I'm down with that.
This one's gonna get cleaned up to the best of my ability, and it'll be rideable, but it'll get cleaned up. And
so these are cool too. The CWZ 1500s. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a CW expert, but that was more of an entry level bike for CW, wasn't it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. It was. And this one, the story is it was in a shipping container for about 30 years.
Wow.
So it was also, you know, it's all original except I had these little grips on here, but it's got the CW.
I love the stem, right?
Yeah,
CW
man,
stem.
It's stamped.
CW seat. They came with some really killer parts, which are mass-produced parts back then, but nowadays super hard to find.
Yeah.
So it's just got really cool nostalgic stuff on it. Actual die comp MX brakes, not the knockoffs like some of the bikes had back then. Super cool bike. Shout out to Flite for the CW donuts.
Yeah. And one thing about this that you don't see, which is really bonkers, is these are the original tires, and it still has the cellophane. I don't know if you can get a shot of that.
Oh yeah,
but
right there.
The original tires.
And they're holding air, just for the record.
Yeah, not much, but
and they're not super dry rotted. They're not this.
No,
they're much better. That's nice.
So the guy I bought this from, it actually has the original brake pads. I have them in a box.
That's sick.
But he sent it to me on a set of reissued tires because he was riding it.
Okay.
But he didn't want to put miles on these ones in fear of them exploding. So yeah,
and then you have a complete CW shaker back here.
I do. This bike's a mess, to be honest. It's a mix of all kinds of different parts that don't belong on it.
But that's how we did it, right? Like, you screw up some grips, you get whatever grips you can and put them on there, and whatever seat. Yeah, it's seen some riding for sure.
Yeah.
I like the platform on these bikes. I think it's a really cool look. And it's interesting, it's rocking GT tires.
There's somebody out there that probably wants those tires.
I'm sure there is.
They definitely don't belong on this, nor do the Skyways. But the plan with this one is my youngest son. We're going to do a full restoration on this. It's going to go to Ernie's. It needs some correction done. I sort of bought it with that intent and put the right parts on there.
So father-son resto, and you're going to send it to Ernie's for powder. And probably some resto as well. He's really good at metal work. Yeah.
For sure.
So shout out to you, Ernie's 80s Bike Shop. We're both customers of his and both vouch for his amazing restoration and powder work skills.
Yeah, he's the best for sure. Really good
definitely.
Stuff.
Okay, so we went through these bikes, but this isn't all. We have a lot more to go through, but real quickly, I want to talk about this artwork up here. You have some really sick pieces that came from where?
These, majority of them are Bill Batchelor prints.
And you have a lot of them signed. How'd you do that?
So he ran a few of these prints where, like the Eddie Fiola up there, I believe there were only about 20 of those signed by Eddie. The Hugo Gonzalez, I think there were only 10. All the way to the left is R.L. Osborne. So he ran these and probably took them to shows. The center one, Dave Volker, one's pretty...
Dave's a cool guy, man. If you ever get a chance to meet Volker, Lord Volker, he is one down-to-earth dude and just really one of my favorite riders. Big dyno guy back then, right? So he's doing now the 24-inch dyno Volker models, which are really cool if you want a rider that looks like an 80s bike. I built a few of those that I think they're kind of missing the mark, and I told Dave, I said, man, I don't know what you're doing with some of these colors like the red one he did. You should be doing them like this, you know, like those would sell a lot better. But yeah, Dave's a rad dude for sure. You got some epic stuff. Like, I don't have anything like this. A little jealousy here, not gonna lie. You got some sick prints.
I love the artwork. I love I love the photography. I mean, you think back, you gotta thank these guys for grabbing these shots.
Shout out to this dude right here, right? Like what his photo looked like. That's sick.
So it's yeah, I mean, I scooped up a bunch of them, and Bill was awesome. He sent me a couple extras, and yeah, it was just, they've been in a bag for a while, and
you just hung these.
Recently framed them. And,
yeah,
I got them up on the
I saw your post that you just got them framed, but they were on the floor. and now they're on the wall when I got here, so that's super cool. So I used to ride here at Pipe, and however Bill got this photo, he must have been hanging his arm way out, because there is nowhere to stand where this camera was. So he's, I don't know, knuckles on the fence and leaning way out to get this angle. It's pretty nuts. And Eddie, true showman right there. That's on a world tour, which is super cool. That's really great. Love it.
I liked what Bill does with his photos is he's going to give you the name of the rider, and he's going to tell you where it was, and he gives you the year that it was too.
Right.
So like
Mike Dominguez, King of the Skate Parks 85. Eddie Fiola, King of the Skate Parks 85. Pipeline 84. Like it gives a story to the picture, which is really important.
Yeah, you can kind of put yourself in that timeline of where they were, and you know well because you were living near the pipeline, and
I was born in the city it was in.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. But I like this artwork. I like the signatures. I've got a Bracken's signature up here on these 09 plates. This was kind of cool.
Honestly, I looked, and there's still some of these out there. If you want to grab one, because they're numbered. He's got number 40 of 100. They're still available. A couple of, I don't know how many they got left, but when you showed me that, I went to the website. I was like, wow, you can still buy one of these. So if you're a collector and want that plate, get over there and get one, I guess.
For sure.
All right, so Justin, you have, this is what always got my attention in your videos, and probably everybody else's, is this background. This is, and I'm going to give him credit right now. Again, the pegboard I stole from him, and in my last house, I did this in my shop as well, because it's such a bike shop way of showing off. In your case, a gazillion frame sets, forks, bars. In my case, it was skateboard decks, number plates, and little things like that. But dude, you literally have it all, and some of it very rare, right? You got cheese graters, red line seats, and then just Dominator seats. Like you kind of have, you got so many frames. I'll talk about that later. It's wild to me. And for me as a builder, I usually get a bike or two and I build them right away. That is not your MO, sir. You
Yeah, I got wrapped up in for a while of, I would see a frame set, and if you're building bikes, you realize that a frame set can cost you less than all the parts it takes to actually build it.
100%.
So I would find myself, oh hey, I wanted that one, so I'm gonna get that, and then I start collecting parts, and it's like this one would come along, and this one to come along. So I've hit the brakes. I tell myself I've hit the brakes. I want to build a bunch of bikes. I've got parts for this 88 Master. I almost have complete. I just got to hit the brakes and build that. So yeah, I got ahead of myself with frame sets.
So is this over COVID, or is this post COVID? You just started collecting, or has it been much longer than that?
Man, this was right around. It was a bit before COVID. I mean, I grabbed my original CW probably 15 years ago, and it's kind of been hanging out down here for a while. And then it just, I don't know, something clicked one day, I think probably around the COVID era of, hey, I want to build this, and hey, I remember this bike, and hey, so sort of turned my basement into a mini shop, if you will. And that's the pegboard is twofold. It hides all the scaffolding behind that, but it really works to kind of keep my stuff laid out and I know what I have, and it's just a easy way to find what you need. And
so does this background get you a little bit of grief from followers because they're always asking about what's behind you and not focusing maybe on the post that you're trying to create? Because I found I love it as a background, but for me it became a distraction because all the comments would be like, what skateboard is that, and is that skateboard for sale? And for me, it's just background. It's future projects, not necessarily stuff you're selling, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not selling anything, honestly. I guess that gets tricky with my following. Is I build bikes. These are all my collection. I have a couple that I've built for people, but the majority of these bikes are a bike that I remember or wanted. And you notice the pattern, like 87 was kind of my jam. I love
mine too. That's my favorite year.
Yeah, man, the colors, the decals. There's just some attachment to that year of had my face buried in Freestyle magazine, and so a lot of these have certain memories. They were just bikes that I wanted, and so fast forward to adult, and I've got a little extra money to grab what bikes I want. But again, I'm hitting the brakes on frame sets. You can mark that down. I'm gonna build a few of these.
I won't hold you to that.
But yeah, it's just I like having them displayed like this. I don't even remember where I saw somebody doing this, but it clicked, and I'm like, I'm going to.
It's a great idea.
I'm going to the box store. I'm gonna get a bunch of this pegboard stuff and hang it up. So that's how we got here.
Okay, so I've been walking around filming this, and I'm trying to ignore the elephant in the room, the big yellow elephant, right? So give us a little bit about what's going on right here with this bike. What is it, and what are you doing with it?
So this one here is 1984 GT Pro Performer. This I purchased as a white bike that had been powdered poorly, repaired poorly. We don't know who did it, but my intent was to build a Fiola, and I know it's been done 100 times over, but this is sort of the beginning of my spin on it. But the bike was sent to Ernie's 80s again. Shout out to Ernie, and he fixed everything on this bike. There were a few dents and dings. The rear dropouts were destroyed. The color was just way off. The GT logo on the back here was, you could barely read it. So, you know, fast forward, Ernie's did his thing with it, sent it back to me, and just slowly putting it together.
So why are you building it? Is it just for you, for your collection, because you always wanted one? Or is it for sale?
It's not for sale.
Okay, good. Just need to make sure everyone knows that.
Not for sale. No, there's a classic image of Eddie sitting on a bike very similar to this.
And I'm going to insert that right there. I want people to see what he's talking about. If you watch the movie Rad, it was in the magazine while they were sitting in their little hangout room there, and it's the most iconic magazine photo of Eddie Fiola you've probably ever seen. And this bike was basically, you're making the bike that was in that photo that motivated you to build this.
I mean, this is kind of my recollection of the bike, and I know you can sort of Google it for research, and some guys do exactly the way it was built. I'm not exactly in that arena. You know, there's reissue tires here. We've got reissue pedals, but the feel and the look of the bike is what I want it to be.
I think that's where we're very similar as builders. We wouldn't call ourselves a purist. We build them to replicate a feeling or a look, how we interpret it, or how we would have wanted that build to be if we were to do it. And I think that's how we build bikes, versus there are people that do it catalog exact, and good for those guys and girls that do that. Like, I'm all about it. It's very hard and very expensive to do that, for one, because these parts are just getting damn near impossible to find. Like, this stem is amazing. Like, you don't see these, right? Especially in blue. Very hard to find. Is this an original? Because it looks like an SR original mallet stem to me.
It's an SR. It was refinished.
Yeah.
So it's not original finish, but it is an SR with the black.
Yep. So if you don't know, a good way to tell a repop, this shaft will be chrome on the repops. And the SR ones are usually dark like that, and then it will be stamped if you pulled that out. It's on there, if that matters to you. And also, a lot of the repops don't have the GT on there, just to be smooth, and people have placed decals on it. However, GT has started making these again. I don't know if you know that or not, but Planet sells them, and they are GT stems that are just like this, not a decal, but they're new. You know, so I guess you can call them a repop, but they're actually made by GT now. So you can buy those. I have one on my Performer right now.
Yeah, so that's kind of the story behind this one. It's not for sale.
Not for sale.
It's just one I'm going to enjoy myself. And
so how much?
No monies.
Not for sale.
No, not for this one. And I've got a couple different things for it, but Flite sort of put these out. There was a short run of these.
Shout out to the wife for these, right?
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty cool. Somebody I know got a signature jersey from
Who did that?
That would be you, man.
Hell yeah.
And then this is signed by Eddie. This one's going to go on the front of this bike as well. So the
bike will have two signatures on it.
Yeah, man, that's
a plate and the frame. Sick.
So it's
these are first gen GT fork standers. You can see the stamp in there lightly. So the difference between Gen 1 and Gen 2, the Gen 2's got the big cutouts on them like mine on my Performer. These are Gen 1s. I've had one set of those from years back, and they're getting really hard to find now. I kind of feel like an idiot sometimes when I sell those things, but it happens.
I'm so afraid to bolt those onto the forks. I'm gonna put some felt on there or something. But
it's either a full send or not at all.
Oh man, it's
just powder coat. Ernie can fix it.
Correct, right.
So I notice a lot of red lines. Let's talk about Redline for a minute. Is it one of your favorite brands?
So if you look at the 600 over here, the white one.
So you have the RL20, you have another RL20 hiding on the floor, and then over here you're talking about this one, right? The 600?
Right.
Okay.
So the 600C was a bike that there was a kid in my neighborhood who had this bike when we were kids. It was white and chrome, same deal. I remember distinctly had a 09 number plate on it, and that was a bike I wanted so badly. And that came along, and I scooped that one up. It has the original bike shop sticker on it. Is still on the back there.
Yeah, here you go.
But I really like the decals on the red lines. They're simple, but like so 80s. You know, they've got.
This is my favorite decal. Yeah, I just built a red line myself, and these are the best decals probably out there ever. Even with, like, this one shows it really well. Kind of that splatter, scribble, triangular shapes, like the font. They nailed it that year. And I believe they ran that decal for a couple of years.
They did,
right? Yeah. 87, 89 or something like that. I'm not a redline expert by any means, but for a couple of years. So yeah, it's very attractive looking decal. So
that decal pulls me in,
and again, 87, right? Some of the best. I just had someone reach out to me that actually designed that.
Oh, no kidding.
They follow my Instagram and said, "Hey, I was the lead graphics guy for GT back in the 80s. I designed that." And I was like, "What?" Also, he did like the 89 Mach 1 because he saw my bike and that's why he reached out. But so yeah, he's he's out there following the BMX guys still, and I think that was pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah.
So which one are you going to build next? This one here, the 600, the red RL, or the white RL?
I really don't know, honestly. I think this is it's kind of a...
Or just hang them there for good times.
No, they're gonna get built. I think that. So the 88 Detour, that is on my list. The chrome one.
Okay. Now, what do you want to do with this one? Do we dare say, or just leave it for another day?
Probably another day.
Leave it for another day.
Yet. Yeah.
This is sick. Some of my favorite decals as well.
Right. That's it. It's almost as good as the 87.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a toss up, but that
the late 80s just had great designs. Really, really good.
So those 88s had this 1 year wheel.
This guy's got stuff literally everywhere. Yeah, that's a rare wheel. It's an odd 6-spoke.
So it's an OGK, but it's it's just, it was specific to that. And I've seen some in black, which are really hard to find. But,
wow, I've never seen a black.
These I restored and bleached, but they didn't come back as much as I wanted, but they were awful when I got them.
So show it in comparison with the Performer OGKs. This is the one everyone knows, right? And this is the one Skyway did a version, a 6-spoke angled wheel like that. So these are GT OGKs.
This is Dyno Detour, 1988.
Oh, Dyno Detour. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Which ones do you like better? Comment below. These or these? These are more rare, but honestly, I think I favor the 6-spoke angled.
I do too, but this one I needed to get for that bike because I try to get them as close to what they were.
Has anyone ever seen those? I mean, those are so rare, you just never see them anymore. People are hanging on to those. Those will look really good on this chrome bike.
I think where it was a 1 year, it was they put these directional OGKs on everything.
Yeah. So these you stamp Performer on them, so you can see the GT and the Performer on them, and these also came in black. So I've never seen the black like the other ones you showed me. I've only seen those in black.
Yeah, I've only seen a couple sets of them for sale, and they go for the money. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I don't have anything that I need them for, but
so let me ask you, what's your favorite bike? Everyone wants to know.
My favorite bike, honestly, has got to be my 87 CW.
The one you've had forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the attachment to that bike and the memories, and
that's what it's about. So what's your daily rider?
Daily rider, probably my 24-inch Haro Master.
Great riding bikes. And what freewheel do you have on that?
It's a profile.
Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds like a profile. Yeah, and these are really cool. I took one of these, repowdered it white, and put the pink and black decals on it. And then I had a 26, the really bright green. I don't know what Haro calls that green, but the really bright one. Then I did gold parts on it because I had a lot of gold takeoffs, which I thought was a weird combo. And some dude from Europe just fell in love with it and paid $1 million in shipping to get it because they were having a hard time getting bikes like that. It's the one and only time I ever shipped a bike overseas. I'm never going to do that again. It's just way too much money and hassle with customs and everything to get a bike overseas. So to the overseas subscribers, I'm sorry, customs sucks. I'm just gonna have to live with it. Check this out. Rocking the RADBMX Build sticker.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that shout out. Nice. All right, Justin, thank you so much for showing us your collection. It's absolutely sick. And I'm sure there's some really big things coming with some builds. Just talking off camera with Justin, he's extremely passionate about this. Make sure you follow him. The Instagram account's right here, the BMX Basement. He's got some stuff we didn't even talk about on camera coming soon. Hopefully, right? Soon. Yeah, hopefully soon. So there's a reason we didn't talk about it, but if you want to follow him, make sure you give him a follow and you're going to see those builds in the near future. He's got a lot going on. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And Justin, anything else you'd like to say to end this video?
No, man, I really appreciate you coming out. So nice to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, awesome.
I've been talking for 4 years or whatever.
Yeah.
So Cali to Texas to Maine, and it's been fun kind of showing you around. And I know we use the word show off a couple times. I'm more of like, my idea is sharing. I'm sharing
totally
the bikes and the builds, and hopefully, you know, it brings back memories for people like what it's done for us.
That's it, man. Like even my motto is building memories, and that's what Justin's doing here also, is just reliving some of the best times of our lives and restoring these bikes and bringing them back out there and sharing them to the community. And that's really what this is all about. So I hope you like this content. I really encourage you, give Justin a follow. That's what this is all about, helping other people grow and showing this stuff to people that might not have bikes like this or the ability to get bikes like this, and just share this so you can live that through people like Justin and me and others that are doing the same thing. So Justin, thanks for opening up your home for me. It's been 4 years since I've been back here in New England, and it's always so good. And maybe one day we'll move back here, own another house here, and we can do this more often. But thanks again for allowing us to make this video. It's been rad, and as always, stay rad.